Hello, everyone. Welcome to KTAL News Now. I'm your host, Anthony Mocklin, and today is Wednesday. It is Wellness Wednesday here on KTAL News Now, but it is also Thanksgiving Eve. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the drinking day of the year, it seems like it is otherwise known as Blackout Wednesday, where it's the night before Thanksgiving, where all of the college kids and students are back in their hometowns for the holidays and they just want to go hang out and go out and see each other and drink a whole lot. There are a lot of studies that show that drinking and alcohol consumption starting from today through New Year's, it pretty much doubles statistically. So, in to learn more about that and dive deeper, I got to speak with an expert on the subject to hear more.
Thanksgiving Eve is sort of the official kickoff the holiday season. Between Thanksgiving and New Year's, there tend to be about 45 to 50 alcohol related accidents and fatalities a day during that time because there's such an increase in drinking during that time. Drinking basically doubles during that period of the year. So people tend to have a lot more negative consequences to their drinking during that time.
And what are some of the effects that are being felt? Like what do you think causes that or drives them to do such a thing?
Well, Thanksgiving Eve is, it has many different names. It's also called Drinksgiving. It's called Blackout Wednesday. And there's often a lot of young folks coming home from college or traveling to be home with family. And the night before Thanksgiving, they often go out to bars and they get together and they're celebrating seeing each other after a long time. But there's also sort of another side to it where people may be anxious about seeing their family. Maybe they don't have great relationships with some of their family members. It may not be their immediate family. Maybe it's other family members who come for the holiday, and they're anxious and they're sort of self medicating around that.
And one thing that is a negative connotation when it comes to that is the amount of drivers that will potentially be on the road. It's a very busy travel season. So I guess how can people stay safe when it comes to if you know you're going to be drinking with your friends and making sure that everybody gets home safe?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we really encourage people have a plan for how you're going to get home before you leave. So whether it's a designated driver, you're using a ride sharing program like Uber, or you are abstaining. So there's different options, but definitely don't drink and drive. We want people to get home safe and to have a happy Thanksgiving.
And what can people do to prepare themselves? I know it's very important to have that designated driver to get home safe, but what can people do in order to monitor themselves and say, hey, you are knowing that themselves have had it too much to drink? Like what sort of things can they look out for to make sure that everybody stays safe during the partying and drinking and everything?
Yeah. So if someone is going to choose to drink, we encourage them to make sure to do a few things. Of all is eat. Make sure that you eat a well rounded meal with carbs, protein, and fat. Don't have a shake or a salad or something like that. Have a real full meal that will slow down the absorption of alcohol. We encourage people to hydrate. So have water in between each of your drinks. That will slow down your drinking, whether it's a sparkling water, a non alcoholic beer, something non alcoholic in between each of your alcoholic drinks. That will hydrate you and it'll also slow down your drinking. And as you're making a decision about whether you want to have that next drink, you can, have a glass of water and figure out whether you actually really want to have another drink or not.
And with it being such a popular day of the year to drink and socialize and everything, there's bound to be a lot of people there. How can people mind their surroundings when it comes to if they know they're going to be drinking? Your awareness isn't the best, so how can they stay safe and figure out exactly what is going on around them?
Yeah, well, there's different things people can do. They can bring a sober buddy or someone who's really drinking moderately along with them, who can help them stay safe. And also, before you go, think about who's going to be there. Maybe there are people you want to connect to. So really think focusing instead of focusing on drinking, focus on connecting with other people and having meaningful conversations and seeing people maybe you haven't seen in a long time.
And one thing people can do as well is like to pace themselves and slow down and really enjoy the drinks rather than try to binge it. How can people do that?
Yeah, so we encourage people to try to drink mindfully. So pick a beverage that you actually enjoy and savor it. Don't drink it quickly. Sip it, drink it slowly over the course of an hour. We encourage people to drink slowly. So if you drink that one drink over the course of an hour, you're going to be much less likely to get to a place of intoxication because you're drinking slowly. So you can think about how it's tasting, what it feels like in your mouth, the color that it is. You can look at it, just really enjoy that beverage instead of, gulping it down or doing a shot.
And I guess a little bit of a personal question, but could you explain a little bit about what you and Whole View Wellness does?
Sure. So we do treatment for people who are struggling with alcohol use or other substance use disorders and gambling. We do individual, group, family, and couples therapy. So there's lots of help. If someone is struggling, if they find themselves drinking and it's out of control more often than not, if they're drinking more than they meant to, if they're waking up the next morning not remembering what happened or having negative consequences, we really encourage people to seek help. Talk to a social worker, talk to a psychologist who's licensed and who specializes in helping. They can also talk to a doctor. There are 3 FDA-approved medicines that can help with alcohol use. You can take a medication that helps you moderate, either orally called naltrexone, or there's an injectable form called Vivitrol. There's also medication that can help you stop drinking altogether, and there's medication that can reduce cravings.
And where can people go to learn more or find resources to help?
There's a great website called myrelationshipwithalcohol.com. There's lots of information on there. There's a little quiz you can take. And there's information about the different medications that I just mentioned. And it can give you, different ideas. There's also 12-step meetings. They're free. They're in church basements all over the country, and online. So you could go to an AA meeting or a SMART meeting, if you're not ready to talk to, a licensed therapist yet.
And what can people do to help others who might have a problem, whether it's a close one, family member or a loved one? What can they do to try to nudge them in the right direction?
So that's a great question. We always encourage people to talk to their loved ones with compassion and love. If they are struggling with their alcohol use, you can offer to go along with them and not drink. Having a sober buddy is really a helpful tool for somebody who's really struggling with their drinking.
And is there anything that I didn't ask today that you wanted to touch a little bit more on?
The thing that I always tell people is that, people sometimes think that the treatment for alcohol use is not very effective, but it's actually equally effective for any other chronic medical disorder. So if you think about diabetes or asthma, somebody who has diabetes every once in a while has a piece of cake, or someone who has asthma maybe forgets their inhaler or their pump. Same thing with alcohol use disorder. If someone is struggling with alcohol use, sometimes they may have a slip and they may have a drink, but we just encourage your family members or loved ones to get back on track and to seek some support. And the treatment is actually really helpful.
And for more information and resources that are available to you, you can find it on ktalnews.com. Now, with the holiday season in full swing, families are in desperate need of gifts ahead of the holidays. And one organization that is helping with that is Toys for Tots. This is the Shreveport Bossier chapter of the United States Marines that is organizing the Toys for Tots event. It is a yearly event around the holidays. They are making their final push ahead of Christmas to get gifts for children in need. And to hear more about that and how you can help, I got to speak to the organizers of the event.
Toys for Tots isn't just a new program. It's been around for 78 years now, and they've been helping kids in the community have a better Christmas. It started with the Marine Corps in the reserves for California. Major Bill Hendricks, he was going through his Marines and going through their houses and stuff like that, and seeing that some of the kids didn't have anything for Christmas. So his wife had the wonderful idea of hand making Raggedy Ann dolls and passing them out to the Marines there, and then also trying to get that out into the community. Because I think the following year was what 5,000 kids they decided they were able to help, and then it just grew exponentially from there. So we're taking out to the local level here for the Bossier Shreveport area, but then also Northwest Louisiana. So we've got families in need all the way down to DeSoto County, all the way up through Plain Dealing, and just right at the Arkansas border. So we're trying to help as many as we can.
And what did you say? You mentioned a little bit about the inspiration behind it. What started it up and like what was the main driving factor for it?
Well, Major Hendricks, as a Marine reservist, And like I say, his wife, they were looking for a charity to donate some toys to her, and they did some research and found that there wasn't one. And so his wife said, "You're the Marines, start one." And that's how it all started. And so the Marine Corps has been actively involved in making sure that every child has a toy in their hand for the holiday season. And it's a total community effort. The Marine Corps Reserve Unit runs the organization, the Marine Corps League. We partner with them to help them with the distribution process, as well as other local churches and nonprofits. But the community is what really makes it work when they come out and donate the toys or make monetary donations to help us buy toys to fill in the gap for those smaller kids that will not be able to receive a toy, or people don't think about the 0 to 2 year old, or those kids that are teenagers with special needs that also want to have a toy. So we just appreciate all of the support that we get from the community and the hard work that I&I staff does to make sure that every child in our community can have a toy.
And how important is that mission and just being able to know that you're making a difference and making a child happy coming the holiday season?
So with that, it's a huge impact to the community relations aspect of it, but just like the ability to give back. Because some Marines, they join to go fight war. Some Marines, they go fight, just to do something a little better for themselves. But then when you're able to come together as a community with the Marine Corps and your own family and be able to give back to the local community of helping those kids have toys, putting those smiles on those faces, and helping those families in need. Because you don't know anyone's situation, you don't know everyone's situation. But when someone's coming to you for need, it's a good job to be able to help them out with even just the smallest of Christmas toys.
And for our Marine Corps League members and retired and former Marines, it gives us to continue to have a connection with our active duty Marines. And we're once a Marine, always a Marine. It keeps us involved in those things that we love to do, and that is to support our community.
And is that something that has been the greatest joy for you since starting it up? Or is there another thing that comes to mind?
I think for me personally, being from the Shreveport-Bossier area, is when you are able to help distribute toys and you see some people that you see every day that you don't realize what their needs are and what their struggles are, and to be able to provide toys for their children and see the smile on their face, it makes a difference. And I feel like it's the same thing for our active duty Marines, because some of them are not from this area, but being able to see the joy that it brings to a family makes all the difference to us.
That's right. As we say, to just seeing that extra ability to support the community. With the local Marines here, we do everything from funeral honors and other community relations. So we've seen, the sad side of things, but then also just that joy of being able to help see those families and those kids have a better Christmas and holiday season is definitely helping.
And with this being the final push, where can people learn more and how to participate ahead of the holiday season?
So on our website, northwest-la.toysfortots.org, we have our list of our drop sites. We have about 78 drop sites. We just picked up a big sponsor a couple days ago. And if you see those white Toys for Tots boxes around, that's a place you can donate your toy, and it'll come right to Toys for Tots to make sure we get it out into the community. We got a big push to get everything in by December 12th. We got to go around town and pick some stuff up. And then we start doing our counting, sorting, and distribution, because in the following week on the 15th, we start giving to our churches and nonprofits that are helping us with their request, as well as taking our local family requests.
And is there anything else people should know ahead of the drive?
Just biggest thing, obviously, is just push out that it's a new unwrapped toy. Says it on the box, just to be a little reminder. We can't do anything with anything used. We can't do anything with clothing or canned food. So there are other local drives doing canned food drives and clothing drives and things like that. Just make sure those go to the right organization, but we're only able to take new unwrapped toys.
And of course, the monetary donations help, because, as I said earlier, and as Staff Sergeant Daniel knows, we're trying to fill a gap for the kids that people don't think about, the special needs kids, the infants from 0 to 2. And so the monetary donation, once all of the toys are sorted, it allows us to see what we have and then go out in the local community and purchase the things to fill the gap. And so any donations that are made here locally to the Toys for Tots, our organization, is going to be spent back in the local community to get toys for those other kids that a lot of people don't necessarily think about.
And that can that be done online or with cash in person? Like, where can people?
We do accept cash at our local events. We do have an event tonight at Flying Heart. You can see more of them on our website under the local events page. We got a few coming up. We've got a big one with our friends at 3 State Harley Davidson for their poker run. and then a couple more with Flying Heart, as well as the Cattle Parish Commission across the river here. But yeah, any of those events will be able to take cash, or if you don't have any, we got a QR code on our donation collection bin, as well as you could donate online to the website, and that goes locally to the Bossier Shreveport campaign.
Awesome. And is there anything that we didn't cover today that you wanted to highlight or touch more on?
And I just want to thank the community for their support because, again, we got all the boxes out at all of these locations, but unless the community actively participates and support the organizations and dropping toys off in those boxes, it's just a lot of empty boxes. So it's a totally community effort. So we really want to thank everybody in our community for all of their support for the Marine Corps Toys for Tots program.
Yeah, we do have a lot of great sponsors and partnerships we work with, and from the Marine Corps League to our friends at Lotus Hospitality, and I could sit here for an hour and probably list off every person who's helped us out and helped make me a better coordinator, as well as make this campaign more successful each and every year.
And for more information on how you can donate, visit ktalnews.com. Now, with Black Friday being on the horizon, it's been getting earlier and earlier each year, it seems like, and there is definitely a reason for that. And to dig to the bottom of this, I got to speak with an expert on how to view the trends this year and some hacks when it comes to your shopping.
So I'm an associate professor here in the marketing department, and I teach classes related to marketing topics on anything from experimental design at the PhD level to the marketing management capstone course at the undergraduate level, and pretty much everything in between, online, offline, hybrid. I've probably taught it at some level and at some format. So basically, my research is on consumer behavior, which takes a look at the reasons why consumers respond to different marketing campaigns the way they do. I'm in charge of running our behavioral lab here in the college, and that's a good source of research data for us as we try and figure out how exactly people respond to these different campaigns.
So, when it comes to this year's Black Friday, what trends have you begun to notice ahead of the big day?
Yeah, so the predictions from the National Retail Federation, which is kind of the main source for what people look at, suggest that there's going to be an increase in overall revenues this year, and some projections are putting that up as high as $1 trillion. But what we're finding is that the average spend per person is actually going to be a little bit lower, at least what they're planning on spending. And what we're seeing is a lot of people are very concerned about the price raises that we've seen over the last year or so, largely due to things like inflation and the tariffs that have come on certain products. So we also have kind of a divergence depending on where you are in the income level. And the people that are pretty well off are spending very well, spending on travel, spending on gifts, expecting to spend more than they did last year. But the people in the middle to lower tier income brackets are expecting to spend less and planning on spending less because they have a lot more negative view of what's going on in the economy. We've got kind of what we call a two-tier economy or K-shaped economy right now, which means the people that are in those higher level incomes don't have as many concerns. So as a consumer, they feel more relaxed about spending freely, whereas the people in the middle and lower incomes are more worried about the future of the economy and not feeling as good about it.
And aside from the tariffs and the economic uncertainty that you mentioned, what have you noticed that has been different compared to previous years this year?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the trends that we've seen continuing is the earlier and earlier start to Black Friday. I mean, there's even companies now that have Black Friday in July. And the idea is to get people kind of excited about this official start to the holiday season and basically give them a reason to purchase at all times of the year. And what it's trying to do, I think, by starting earlier is get people to maybe spread out their spending a little bit more, which might be good for the consumer as well as for the retailer because it may actually make the aggregate of all they spend bigger over a longer period of time. Another thing that we've seen is the advent of artificial intelligence being used, and this is used both on the consumer side and on the retailer side. The numbers from last year suggest that there was a small but significant bump in the amount of people purchasing if AI was used in their online interactions. And we've actually seen evidence that certain consumer groups, particularly those in the younger demographics, are starting to use AI as a tool to find the best price, which is important to them, particularly in the younger, like Generation Z type consumers who are concerned about their spending this year.
Yeah, I remember when it used to be just one day and it was just pure chaos the whole
Yeah.
time, everybody fighting to get everything. Is there a certain point where that sort of shifted and became this more spread out thing?
Well, it was, yeah. I mean, back in the early 2000s, early mid 2000s, they came out with Cyber Monday, which is kind of the end of what we often call Cyber Week now. And it's really the more online focused shopping day. Although ironically, there's more shoppers, at least there were last year, online on Black Friday than there are on Cyber Monday, but they didn't spend quite as much online on Black Friday as they do on Cyber Monday. So what that suggests is that there's a difference in what they're buying as well. Cyber Monday tends to trend towards more electronics and bigger ticket items, whereas Black Friday might be a mix of many different products, and not all of them are as high a price. We've also seen that during the pandemic, people wanted more of what they call an omni-channel experience. So they want to have a better integration between online sales and offline sales, so that you might have somebody shopping online, getting some basic information about products, checking prices maybe at a couple different locations, and then making a decision to purchase the product at one retailer, purchasing it online, and then going to pick it up either curbside or going into the store to buy it. And they hope that if you do that, then maybe you'll stop by and buy a few other things while you're there as well.
And there have been some things on social media that try to claim that companies don't actually have these huge sales. Like they usually try to mark them up around the holidays and then show a sale price as if you're getting a deal. Is there any credibility to any of these claims?
Well, there actually probably is. Obviously, there's legal restrictions for what they can and can't do. But a lot of times, what you'll do as a retailer is give people what we call a reference price, and an advertised reference price specifically is what you're telling them the product originally sold for or was sold for at some point. And one of the games that you might play is saying that this product was, $500 and now is 250. And that might be true. Maybe when it very first came out, and maybe that's 2 years ago, it was $500. But if you look at the price trajectory over those 2 years that it's been available, maybe the last 6 months or so, it's retailed for 270. So now you get it for 250, which is still better than 270, but not nearly as big a discount as you would see if it was really 50% off. And so what I recommend is that when you're searching for these products, you have some idea of what the real price was over the not too distant past. So keep an eye on particularly big ticket items for the last few months and see what they normally sell at. What retailers are capitalizing on is this idea that the average, or excuse me, the advertised reference price actually gives people a belief and anchors them at a high level of price. And then anything below that they think is a deal, and they think creates value. And that works very effectively if people don't know what the product normally sells for. And sometimes the sales are not really very good sales. So being an educated consumer can help you really know whether you're getting a good deal or not.
And do you personally have any tips or advice or any like Black Friday hacks for shoppers this year?
Well, I like to think of myself as pretty frugal and kind of a penny pincher, but I think, there's a number of things to keep in mind. Number one, know what your finances are. Don't overextend, because that can be really financially damaging. The other thing is be very in tune with what your needs are. If we look at these earplugs that I have in right now, for example, I love them. They were about 20 bucks, probably less actually. I think they might have been 10 bucks. And they function great for everything I need in terms of sound quality, in terms of staying in my ear. I think they're fantastic. Now, other people have name brand earbuds that probably cost 10 times that. And for them, that might be perfect. That might be exactly what they want, might have better sound quality, might have other features that mine don't. But I don't feel that I need to spend that extra money because the extra benefits that those products bring are not actually benefits for me. And in fact, some of the things that they bring are drawbacks to me. So be very clear with what you want as a consumer and look for products that deliver that and know that that doesn't always mean that you have to buy the name brand to get a good price. You can find non-name brands or lower tier models that are much cheaper that may not have all the high end features. But if you're not going to use those features anyway, then you're paying for stuff you won't use. The other thing is do your research. Know what you're trying to buy, know the specific categories, and know what the average prices are that things are actually sold for. So you know if you're getting a good deal or not. And also look for specialized sites that carry the types of products you're looking for. Another good tip might be to look at some of the lower priced outlets, things like TJ Maxx or Marshalls or Ross or Burlington or Ollie's Bargain Outlet. All these tend to have a little bit more of a fluid set of products that flow through their stores. But if you find what you like, it can oftentimes come at a much lower price than if you're buying them at a full price store.
And I know we talked about it a little bit earlier with the economic impact and forecasts. Is there any other factors that you see affecting the economy when it comes to shopping?
Well, I look at it mainly from the standpoint of kind of the other way around, how the economy is going to affect consumers. But one of the ways that that's happening right now is if you look at the number of people who feel the economy is going well, there have been a couple of polls within the last week or so that came out from CBS and Fox News, and they both show that somewhere between two-thirds and three-quarters of Americans are feeling that the economy is not really doing so great right now. And this goes back to the idea that you have people in those higher income brackets, which number fewer, that think it's going great. And the remaining people in the middle and lower tier income brackets feel it's not going so well. And so, what we're also seeing in the early predictions and early numbers is that the prediction of the increase in overall spending is largely being driven by the higher income consumers. And their average spend is what's bringing the overall average up. But if you look at the individual level, in those middle and lower tier consumers, they're planning on spending a lot less. And particularly again within Generation Z, they're kind of the extreme where they're reporting spending nearly 23% less on average than they did over the last few years. Now, what that translates to for retailers is the particular type of retailer can gain an advantage or a disadvantage based on who they're serving. One of the things that you typically see is when people become concerned about the economy, people are going to start trading down to lower priced outlets. So companies like Walmart can do particularly well as people start to trade down to lower tier outlets and or lower price tier outlets, excuse me. And they've reported fairly good earnings so far and fairly good outlook for the coming shopping season. Now, you contrast that with Target, and Target saying, well, we're finding that we're not really hitting our target market very well right now. And that might be largely due to the economic concerns. Another interesting thing that you're seeing is we're starting to see online retailers that are discount like Temu.com starting to creep up in the planning for where people are going to shop this year. And they've been there before, but the numbers are getting larger. And that's probably also indicative of people's concerns about these raising prices or rising prices.
And is there any resources or more information that people can go see for themselves to learn more?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the best outlets is go to the National Retail Federation's website, and they've got a bunch of reports there that break it down in a number of different ways. And really, just based on that report, you can Google things from there that you find interesting and find some decent articles on, virtually from consulting groups up to news outlets. And there have been some good recent articles in the last couple of days talking about specific things that retailers are trying to do, and those can be very accessible to people even without a business background.
And is there anything that we didn't go over today that you wanted to highlight or talk more on?
No, I think just re-stressing that point that I had for people to know if you're getting a good deal or not, you really need to know what the normal pricing parameters are. So anytime you're going out to purchase something, particularly if it's a large purchase, do your homework and know what you can expect to pay normally for a product, and that'll help you determine whether you're getting a good deal or not.
And to find all that information and more, visit our website at ktalnews.com, which is where we stream this show every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. And I hope everyone has a wonderful and happy and safe Thanksgiving. If you're traveling, safe travels to everybody. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful holiday coming up. But I'm Anthony Mocklin. Have a great rest of your day and holiday, and thank you for joining us.